Hi, this is Ronnie Ajasi and welcome to my review of the second Master Grade kit, the MS-06S Zaku II. It is the second kit in the catalog, and it is a custom mobile suit used by one of the most important antagonists of the TV series. This kit was released back in 1995. This is the box art. Along the sides of the box you see the many features that this kit has to offer. And let's have a look at inside the box. Here's a large display card with a photo of the finished product. Here's the manual containing the instructions, some background information, drawings, and some full color photos. Here on the back cover you see a back view of the finished product. And of course you have the runners. And yes, I did film this portion of the video after I finished building the kit, and thus the empty runners. Now on with the build. Here you can see the workings of the ball joint linking the foot to the ankle. A quick test of the flexibility of the leg skeleton. Here you see the precursor to the inner frame skeleton and armor panel system that is prominent in modern Master Grade kits today. Although in many regards you still have the shell and polycaps system for the rest of the kit. This is one of the more interesting part of the build. This is supposed to be the conduit pipes that runs between the thigh and the lower leg. You have the core, which is a flexible plastic, and what they do is they run a spring over it. And then you have individual parts representing the segments of that pipe. And what you get is a really convincing representation of the conduit pipe rather than molding the entire thing in flexible plastic. Moving along with the other leg. Here's a close-up of the seated pilot, the antagonist Shah Noble with his distinctive helmet design and cloak. A little bit tricky to get this into the cockpit. Note that this figure is just cast in one color and it's not fully painted like it was shown on the side of the box or inside the manual. Here's a close-up of the emblem that's already etched onto the shield. It's really neat, but it's just a shame that it will be all covered up when you start painting it. Here you see more of the shell and polycap system. Close up of the transparent part for the mono eye lens. This is my favorite part of the kit. There is an actual cog system built into the head to move the mono eye left to right. You can see how it works here. But I do have one issue with it, which I'll explain further later in this video. Here's the weapon assembly. You have the classic 120mm machine gun, a spare ammo cartridge, 2 stem Faust, which after a quick research is a bit like a rocket you fire from a stick. You have also the 280mm bazooka, a 175mm tank gun, I presume is a high caliber anti-tank gun, and of course the classic Heat Hawk, which is a fancy axe with a heated blade. Articulation check. You can roll the shoulder along 2 axes. The upper arm can rotate along its axis as well. The left shoulder armor actually pivots on one point, and you find the motion's a bit limited for that armor. Now if you pull out the pin of the shoulder just a little bit more, you find that you can actually achieve a wider range of motion for that arm. Note that the elbow is double jointed, and you have the forearm that rotates along its axis. For the hands, you have the free one thumb configuration. And the hands can rotate, and the wrist bends a little bit. The shield on the right shoulder can rotate as well, so 90 degrees either way. And the entire arm can turn 360. Here's the leg articulation. The thigh rolls around on the ball joint, but unfortunately due to the armor plating limitations, you find that you can only twist about 45 degrees forward and back and sideways. And as you can see, the range is a bit limiting. And here's another one of those conduit cables between the upper and lower leg. Note how it flexes as I move the legs around. Note that the knee joint is double jointed and you can only rotate on one axis. The knee plate moves a little bit. The foot rolls around on the ball joint. Reasonable amount of motion. And here we have a hatch on the foot that opens. Now after you open the hatch, you find that there's really not much inside. There is a piston detail, but you find that if I move it around, it doesn't really do anything, it's just there for show. But neat little detail. This hatch cover is actually an individual part, and you also have the grey thrusters all along the bottom of the leg. Coming back to the overall articulation of the legs, this is the full extent of motion for their legs, and as you can see, it's not really much to go on. The torso doesn't rotate at all, it's just one big block. That's just to show perhaps this is a older mobile suit design. The hip armor plates do have a very small range of motion, which limits the movement of the legs. And then the back armor plate doesn't move at all. The thrusters move about a little bit. Chest plate opens up. Get it open. And it reveals the cockpit. And this is the first of my many complaints. If you look closely at the manual, in the middle where they have full color pictures, you find that the chest plate opens a lot further, almost 90 degrees. Compared to what can be done out of the box. So in order to mimic what I saw on the manual, what I have to do is to remove the plate. And kinda just place it there so that it looks like it's open as pictured. Doesn't quite sit. It will fall off eventually. Don't expect this fully open hatch going in. The head can turn side to side. And you can look up and down a little bit. And if you're careful, you can actually pull off a 360, but note how the nozzle and the back end of the head scratches against the top of the torso. So I wouldn't recommend doing that, especially after you have painted it. The hatch on top of the head opens up 90 degrees or so, and you can see some interior parts along with the construction of the mono eye as well. Drawing your attention to the back of the head, you notice there's a little switch at the back. if I move this little switch side to side, I can manipulate the position of the mono eye, which would have been the highlight of this kit if it worked straight away out of the box. Now when I first have this built out of the box, the cogs don't quite turn properly and they were really tight. And notice that if I push too hard on the switch or the tab, the cogs simply skips a tube and I'll be stuck with a lopsided switch. So I can't just leave it like this. So in order to get this to work, some modification needs to be made. Now notice the switch side, the gearing is a bit loose, so that probably is not the problem. But I did notice the ones at the front, where the mono eye is where the tightness is. And you can actually rotate the mono eye in steps, which suggests a bit of a pressure between the gears there. I tried flipping the center cog piece and see what happens, and it doesn't look like it will fit properly, leaving a gap that is going to cause even more problems. And it doesn't look like there's anything holding the mono eye piece in a clicking fashion, moving freely. So the clicking most likely came from the pressure exerted by the gear teeths. So I reckon a bit of sanding is called for. A little bit of this. A little bit of that. A little bit more. More. I may have taken off a bit too much plastic here, but on the bright side it's actually working a lot better than before. Because once I've started painting this kit, it'll be a lot more difficult to take it apart to fix it. So I'd rather have it working to some extent than not at all. Because at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is to take this apart to make this work again. The mechanism still works, it's just a little bit clunky, but at least now it does work, and I can also use gravity to kind of make it move into place. Now I may have overdone this, but at least it's functional. Here's another complaint. I noticed that in the finished product pictures, the mono eye is translucent red here, here, and here, and here again. But the kit itself is actually clear plastic. I kinda like the red mono eye look, so I stuck with just using the stickers for now. Just a note, when you're building this, the conduit pipes along the side of the face or the head, the inner part, although it's a flexible plastic, is also quite fragile. I think I may have pushed this part in a little bit too hard when assembling, and you notice the end tip is actually a little bit broken and is on the verge of snapping. Uh-oh. Correction, it has broken off. Oh well, emergency repair with super glue. Super glue fixes everything. The little dab of super glue here. Probably just give it a bit of time to dissolve the plastic a little bit. What I'm looking for is a little bit of melted plastic so they can kind of mesh together. Set aside for a few days to dry. And almost good as new. I'll just need to be more careful with this part from here on. And now on to the weapons review. The machine gun has two moving parts. The scope moves. So does the handle. And a removable ammo pack. And it can be mounted on the hip or the back armor. Here's the anti-tank gun, or the tank gun. Has one movable handle. This is the bazooka. It has two movable parts, the scope and the handle. This is the Sternfaust. It consists of a holster, a holder of some sort that you can mount the Sternfaust to. And this is what it looks like mounted onto the sides of the mobile suit. This is the Heat Hawk. Notice that it's molded in red color. It's not as depicted on the side of the box or on the instruction manual. So if you do want to have a color accurate version, you do need to paint it. I don't know why it's molded in red. On the back of the Zaku II, there is a mounting clip for the bazooka. All you have to do is pry open this part here to reveal a mounting notch. The bazooka, you need to fold it up like so, lining up with the mounting notch. You twist it this way. You place this piece, when you do get it in, and that's how you mount the bazooka. Here's how you mount the ammo pack. When you lift this part up, this pin allows you to mount the ammo pack onto the Zaku II. You can mount it onto the back, or you can mount it onto the side on the hip. Here's the finished Zaku II with its weapons. Now on to extra optional parts. These are parts you need to glue onto your model kit if you are looking for more mechanical details to your Zaku II. We got extra air vents, handlebars, and this what looks like cable hooks. I'm not quite sure what it does, but it's just an extra detail. Here are where the extra parts go. Now it's not highlighted on the side of the box, but do take note of the hook that was glued onto the side of the torso. Just to show you on the kit itself, there are no provisions for any of these extra parts, they all need to be glued on. These are extra parts that's left behind. Extra parts for the conduit cables, just in case you lose some. And this is just an extra joint that was left in. Standing version of the pilot, Shah as Noble. These are the cover pieces that goes in place of the grey thrusters at the bottom of each leg. Here's the top head hatch without the provision for the antenna to go on. You can see these parts allude to the mass-produced version of the Zaku II. And this is an alternate antenna, they call it the real version. I chose to stick with the anime version. Decals and stickers. I used this one for the mono eye. dry transfer decals. These are the sticker parts to hide seam lines. I won't be applying these because I do plan to paint them later. Here are the different hand options you can use, the open palm and closed fist options. Just a little extra note to add as I was building this. I did notice a lot of detail being put into this, even in places that you don't normally would see. A couple of examples here are panel lines underneath the armor panels in the hip area. Also, if you remove the cover of the backpack, you can see the detailed internals. So a lot of attention has been put into it. My overall impression of this kit is that a lot of details have been put into this kit, and it's still a good version of the Zaku II design. And as I pointed out, one of the most impressive parts of the actual kit was also my biggest disappointment when the monowire mechanism did not actually work out of the box. Another aspect of this master grade kit that I was a little bit disappointed about is also the very limited articulation of the legs, which is quite limited even when comparing to the kit before it, the RX-78 In any case, for something this old and costing only 2,625 yen back then, it is still not a shabby kit, considering all the accessories, the amount of attention to details that's been put into this kit. It is a decent kit. It's just that I can't help feeling a little bit disappointed with the monowire mechanism that didn't work and the limited leg articulation. But thanks for watching this far. I know it's a really long video. I hope you enjoy my review of the MS-06S Zaku II Master Grade Kit. I'm Ronnie Ajasi. Till next time.